Hey guys, it's me again, Eric here at Mountaintop 9, and I'm ready once again to bring you the fucking goods. This time we're going to talk about the debut album from 6 Feet Under called Haunted. One thing that's funny, I remember getting this album right around the time it came out. Me and my friend both got this album, and it's not, as far as lyric-wise, Chris Barnes isn't as explicit, just full-on X-rated horror like you know how he was. If you peruse the lyrics to an album like Tomb of the Mutilated, okay? If you look through those lyrics and stuff on the Bleeding as well, they are just so psychosexual. It's just depravity in a very just a very hardcore manner, you know what I mean? And on Haunted, that aspect is toned down a little bit. It's not quite as graphic as albums like that. He still has songs on this album like Suffering in Ecstasy and Remains of You and Silent Violence. Those songs do kind of follow the twisted mind of a psychopath, and there are gory lyrics in here for sure. He's talking about holes in people's torsos, holes in their skulls. He's talking about severed heads on this fucking album, but it doesn't go into the super psychosexual depravity that Tomb of the Mutilated, you know, really just reveled in all its twisted, sick, sinister glory. This album tones that down a little bit, and the music on this album is a big bone of contention with a lot of people, especially, you know, a lot of hardcore death metal fans. They've looked down on 6 Feet Under from day one. I mean, I remember reading letters to Metal Maniacs back when, it was after this album came out, it was by the time they got around to their second album, but I just know that a lot of death metal fans have always looked down on 6 Feet Under because of the simplicity of the music. It just relies on groove and stuff like that. You know, it has a kind of like a death and roll type sound. You know, some people like that, some people don't. Personally, I don't listen to every 6 Feet Under album. This is one of the few albums I do enjoy putting on every once in a while by 6 Feet Under, and it brings back great memories for me. I just feel like I love Alan West. I love his guitar tone on this album. It's just so fucking heavy, it's thick, it's got a beefy sound to it. Have you ever went down the street and got a nice Dave single from Wendy's? You know how nice and beefy that burger is, and you get some ketchup, mayonnaise, and onion and pickle on there? Well, that's the way the riffs are on this album. They do have groove, and I know sometimes that can be bad. Trust me, guys, I'm not big into, I don't like metalcore, I don't like nu metal, I don't like shit like that, alright? So I am kind of a traditional metal type dude, and when I say that, I don't mean that I just listen to Priest and Maiden. I love my black metal and my death metal and my thrash and all that, but I don't get into the fucking music where the guys have their goddamn pants falling down to the fucking floor and jumping up and down and all that shit. I don't go for that crap. I don't like that kind of music. I never did. But that doesn't mean that I don't like some groove in my fucking metal. Sometimes I'm in the mood to listen to shit like that. Sometimes I have fun putting on Vulgar Display of Power by Pantera, or an album like this that just really has a nice fucking grooving feeling to it. Groove in and of itself isn't a bad thing. I mean, hell, go back and listen to Lord of This World by Black Sabbath. Tony Iommi fucking, you know, relied heavily upon some nice groovy riffs. So there's nothing wrong with having some groove in your fucking metal. So there are people, getting back on track, there are people that have a problem with the band just being so damn simplistic. I can kind of see their point of view in regards to the fact that I wish there were more solos on this album, okay? On the song Still Alive, that has some nice lead work on it, you know? It sounds really good, and it kind of brings some color to the album, because this album can get kind of monotonous because there aren't enough leads. I think some more leads would have went a long way. I know for most death metal people that still wouldn't have been enough, because they still think the music in and of itself, the riffs are so fucking, you know, simplistic. Even more leads wouldn't have satisfied these people. But for me personally, just if I had a quibble, I wish Alan West had put a few more leads on this album, because I like the ones on Still Alive, and then on the title track at the very end of the album, okay? The very last song, he does a little bit more lead work. And I just think he should have sprinkled a little bit more guitar leads throughout this album. Not every song, but just a few more, just to add a little bit more color. We need a little bit more to kind of, you know, just to kind of make the palette more interesting to this album. Because even though people think this album's a little bit too simple, I love it. Sometimes I'm in the mood just to put this album on, and from the moment it starts, when you hear that first song, The Enemy Inside, I just like that bone-crushing, beefy guitar tone, and it just knocks you over the head. And, you know, Chris Barnes is Chris Barnes. We all know what his death growl sounds like. This was him just delivering more of that, and you could understand all the words on it. I understand most of the words on this album. That's the thing. By the time Chris Barnes got to the bleeding, you could really start to understand what he was saying when he was growling, okay? He made it sounded extreme and everything. There's intense gruffness to it. It still sounds abrasive to the average person's ears, but you could decipher the lyrics. You could tell what the hell he was saying. And so that's pretty cool. And you know what? When you think about it, an album like Haunted, you know, and what Chris Barnes really wanted to do with 6 Feet Under, you could tell that on a song like Stripped, Raped, and Strangled from the Bleeding, that was kind of like a foreshadowing, you know, in a way. You know, that song kind of had more of a grooving feel to it, and just the way that song comes off, you could tell that that's where Chris Barnes, that's where his heart was headed. He wanted to go in this type of direction where he just wanted some simplistic, grooving type riffs and stuff where he could just be real audible and you could really decipher his words, and just wanted to go in a more down-to-earth fashion. He didn't want to go into a more technical direction. So I'm sure that was a bone of contention between him and the rest of Cannibal Corpse. So anyway, some of my favorite tracks on this album, I gotta say, I really like Silent Violence. The first time I put this album on, I was really attracted to that song because I love it when Chris Barnes is doing that blow-by-blow shit where he's just talking about all the savage, atrocious things he's doing to a fucking human body, and he's just giving you the rundown on the mayhem that the character in the song is getting up to. I love all that bloody, gory type shit. So Silent Violence kind of filled that need, you know, so I love that track. That's a fun song. The riffs are fun. You know, the riffs are bludgeoning on this album. They really are. So, even though it's simplistic, sometimes that's what you want to hear. It's kind of like, listening to an album like this, listening to an album like Haunted by 6 Feet Under, it's kind of like, sometimes you're in the mood for it, but it's not something you can listen to a lot because you would get tired of it. It would get old because it's so stripped down and basic. It's kind of like listening to AC/DC or the Ramones or something like that, you know? It's great when you're in the mood for it, you know what I mean? It's great when the mood calls for it, it fills that void. So I love Silent Violence. Human Target is a fun song. I really like Beneath a Black Sky. That one just hammers you over the head and it's just very ominous. I like the feeling that one gives you. And I gotta tell you, when I turned 18 years old, at the stroke of midnight, when I turned 18 years old, you know where I was at? I was at a 6 Feet Under concert at the Al Rosa Villa in Columbus, Ohio. It was a 6 Feet Under show. It was during the Maximum Violence tour. It was when 6 Feet Under were promoting that album. And I met the bassist Terry Butler, and I met Chris Barnes. They both signed shit for me, and that was a really cool show. Immolation were one of the opening bands, and they put on a fun set and everything. Another good song on this album that has a nice dark feel to it is Tomorrow's Victim. It has kind of an added depth to it music-wise. You can hear like some dark chords being played at certain parts that kind of heighten the tension, so I like that. It's like I said, I wish this album wasn't quite as primitive and simplistic as it is. If they would have added a little bit more color to the palette, this album could have been greatly improved in my opinion. It's so stripped down that certain sections, like when you hear that guitar lead at the beginning of Still Alive, or this part of Tomorrow's Victim where they add a little bit in the background, it really makes the difference. It just adds some much needed flair to the sound. But anyway, I've babbled enough about this album. It's a fun album. Go back and give it a listen. I mean, if you're just in the mood to hear some pummeling guitar riffs that just sound like they're being played by a fucking caveman and they're just filled with brutality, but a simple brutality, go back and give Haunted a listen. It's a fun album. I also like the album Maximum Violence. There's some good tracks on that one. I like that song Torture Killer on there. You know, that's just such a good one. I remember seeing that one at that concert performed live. And let's face it, the lyrics to the chorus section of that song, I mean, come on. That's classic Chris Barnes right there. So yeah, man, that's all I have to say about Haunted. And let me know in the comment section what you think about this album. And, you know, if you enjoy my videos, feel free to share them in metal forums or in horror movie forums, wherever you're allowed to share videos, feel free to share my stuff. I don't like to personally share my stuff myself because I feel like I'm spamming. I don't want to do that. But, you know, if you want to introduce other people to my videos, I greatly appreciate it. That'd be awesome. And guess what, guys? I'll be seeing you again next time.